Hi, this is Desiree Brown, and you guys are listening to the Young Eager Writers podcast. I'm here with Susanna Parkhill. And Susanna, if you just want to talk a little bit about yourself, what you write, the genre that you like to write in, writing education, all that kind of stuff.
So I'm Susanna. I graduated from UNCC in December with an English degree. I mostly write poetry. That's the vast majority, although I do write a good bit of personal essays as well. I think my poetry is pretty visual centered, kind of like a painting poetry kind of thing, like E. E. Cummings. And what else? What else about myself? Oh, and then also as a hobby, I do like to paint a lot too. So I just kind of have a visual, I guess, appreciation, which also kind of comes into my poetry too.
Yeah, and I have a question or two about that actually, kind of bringing in those two worlds. So you write poetry and then you write personal essay. What are those two like? Like those seem very different to me.
Yeah.
Do you happen to kind of write more than the other? Do they come together?
I tend to write poetry more. Poetry to me, some poems are planned, but a lot of them just kind of strike me with a mood or like an inspiration. Whereas the personal essays, if I've been like thinking a whole lot about a specific topic or I have like an experience that I want to share in pretty like literal terms, then I kind of do the personal essay.
Yeah. And one of the things that I've learned talking to other writers and publishers is that, that's a great segue. Like a lot of people want to publish
Yeah.
personal essays nowadays.
Yeah.
Have you like wanted to publish any of your stuff or
Mm-hmm.
have you?
Yeah, I've published one poem. It was about 2 years ago in Sanskrit, the UNCC Lit Arts magazine. With I haven't really been trying as hard to publish lately. I think I've just decided like I want to focus on like just my skills and enjoying the writing rather than focusing on like I'm trying to get published so bad. Although there's this online magazine that I love. It's called Man Repeller, and
Mm,
every month they have an essay prompt. So I do those sometimes too.
yeah.
Yeah.
And those are so much fun when they have
Yeah.
something new that they bring up every month or so.
Yeah.
So at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte, you were in the English honors program, correct?
Mhm.
So one of the things I want to ask you is how did that help you kind of build a community? Like, were you already coming in knowing that you wanted to be a creative writer? Did you have writer friends, or was this kind of the start of that?
Yeah, so I actually came into UNCC as a communications major, but after the first year, like, I mean, communication studies is interesting, but I guess I just kind of realized, like, I'm, I want to be a creative person, like, I want to be hands-on, so, like, expressing myself is really important to me, and also, like, I love literature, and so communications as a major is more just kind of about comm theory, whereas I wanted English and specifically the creative writing part so I could express myself as I wanted to. But yeah, the honors program, well, I was in English honors and the university honors, but with English honors, I feel like that was just kind of another level of responsibility, but in a good way because you can't just like sail through your classes like oh, I'll just try to make good grades. It was kind of like in the honors classes, you're really forced to participate, but in a good way. So I feel like that kind of inspired me to like try my hardest in writing, and you also get a lot of good opportunities for critiquing in those honors classes too. So
Yeah, and that's one thing that I mean I found was really beneficial. So it's really
yeah.
great that it seems that everyone has kind of had that same experience.
Yeah, because the honors classes are a bit smaller too.
Yeah. So did you already have like and I don't know if you did you say when you started writing?
Oh no, I didn't. So it's kind of funny because like when I was little, my dream job was to be a rock star. So
Oh.
and like I'm like okay at singing and all that, but like I actually first started, well, I had a diary like a lot of little girls do, but I kind of first started creatively writing. I would write songs. So I kind of started doing that like in elementary school, but then I don't think I realized my like aptitude or like my interest in poetry and stuff until I started taking AP literature in high school, because then they like forced you to actually study poetry in depth, and it turns out I really liked it. So
Got
yeah.
it. So you really discovered your love for poetry in high school.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you talked about drawing and painting and stuff.
Yeah.
How do you kind of merge those two worlds together? How do they intertwine? How do they inspire each other?
Yeah. So yeah, I was thinking about this in the car. It's kind of interesting because for me, like for me to write a poem, it does require a certain like mood or feeling behind it, because most of the time I write to express myself. But one thing that they have in common is a lot of my poems are very like visually descriptive, and it's the vast majority of them, it's like scenes I see in real life. So like there's this one poem which I think I actually brought to like one of our meetups, the writing meetups, where like I walked to the post office, and like it was just such a weird experience because I had to cross like train tracks, and there were like helicopter seeds falling down, and the lady who works there like pulls up a like wooden like separator. It was so weird, but it was also so interesting just visually. So, and like when I see interesting scenes too, sometimes I want to paint them. So it's just kind of like a common source of inspiration for the painting and the poetry is actually things I see in real life.
Yeah, that's really fantastic. And I
Yeah.
think that, I mean, that's something that I struggle with a lot is trying to be inspired by the everyday life. Sometimes I have to force myself to kind of stop, but
Yeah.
it seems like your brain just automatically is just
Yeah.
watching for things to paint and to write.
Yeah, like like everyone else, I can get a bit of like writer's block or artist's block, and like I can be a little bit of a hermit, so that's why it's important for me to like get out of the house and maybe go somewhere I don't always go, just like get those juices flowing, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
That's actually a really good question to ask. I'm I'm happily an introvert.
Yeah,
So,
me too.
as an introvert, you how do you go out and experience life? Like what are some tactics that you use to kind of, as you say, get out of your environment and go do something
Yeah.
new?
Well, like I really like going on walks, and I think like a lot of the like romantic poets used going on walks through nature as their inspiration. So like I when I lived close to UNCC, I like walked in the botanical gardens all the time, and that actually helped inspire a lot of poems. So like yeah, like even though as like an introvert, I might not, like go to a concert or a new bar all the time. I think like my main go-to is like take a walk like through nature, like maybe at a park or like just in my friend's neighborhood if I'm dog sitting, just kind of try to find new places to walk and be in my in my own little bubble.
Yeah. No, I think that's great advice,
Yeah.
especially for us introverts.
Yeah.
So have you ever considered publishing a book of poetry that also incorporated your art in it?
I actually haven't, but I think that would be a good idea because like I'm sure there's paintings that could pair well with poems, or like especially if some of them came from the same time of life, like yeah, and the challenge would be, since I'm more of a painter than like a drawer, like I guess it would have to be a photograph of the painting, like you can't scan a painting. But yeah, no, that's actually a cool idea because like Rupi Kaur, I think she illustrated the little doodles in her book, and so that was a nice touch.
Yeah, I actually didn't know that. She illustrated those herself?
I'm pretty sure she did. I might be wrong, but I think she did. Yeah.
I mean, no, that's actually really cool, and I mean, I see that kind of stuff a lot of the times in poetry books, but I guess I don't ever think that I mean, it's possible that it could be the poet who actually
Yeah,
creates
like
those.
I got an E. E. Cummings collection, and I didn't know this, but he was an artist too, so a lot of his sketches are like throughout the collection, and that was really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
So because this is a podcast for young writers, is there any advice that you have for them? Maybe something you've struggled with as a young writer, or something you're struggling with now, or something you've overcome?
Yeah, so when I got that first and only poem published when I was 19, I think like I was in my head, I didn't really understand like how difficult it can be to get published. So I got a lucky break because that was the first magazine I'd ever submitted to. So I just thought, oh, I can publish so many more poems if this is my first time applying and I got in. And so like I would spend all my extra money like sending in submissions, and I would just get so like discouraged that I just got rejections back. But it's just like I think young writers need to understand it's very, very normal to get rejected. In fact, like that's going to happen the vast majority of the time. And so something that I've been doing now, instead of like trying to be overly ambitious and like, come on, like I really need to get a poem published. It hasn't happened in so long. I'm just trying to focus on writing to express myself and to just enjoy it and to just, try to write the best I can rather than, oh, like I'm trying to get up my count of poems published,
Yeah. No, and that's very true. I agree with that completely. And that's what a lot of the writers who I've been interviewing, they've been talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
Just focus on your writing. Don't take the pressure off yourself. Don't worry about publishing yet. Just focus on producing work.
Yeah.
So I have one more for you, and I always try to answer or I try to ask a fun question. I put fun with the little quotation marks, because sometimes they're difficult to ask, but they're fun. So if you could meet any writer from any time period, who would it be?
So it's funny because actually the first person that came to mind, so like, my dad's mom is Hungarian, and so I really love this Hungarian writer called Sandor Sasori. And
Yeah.
yeah, I showed him to Jarrett. I don't know if he showed him to you, or I post him sometimes, but yeah, I really like him just because he kind of considered himself or other people considered him the Hungarian national poet, and he kind of took it upon himself to be the conscience of the country, like during World War II, because all this like crazy stuff was happening, like villages were getting burned, like it was really horrible for people who lived out in the country. So he kind of took poetry as a moral responsibility, which I found interesting. And of course, I love his poems. Like they're very melancholy, but I like sad stuff. And I also have that a bit of a family connection too. But he was I just liked how he combined like poetry also as a moral responsibility. Like it's great to express yourself. Of course, that's mainly what I do, but I just really liked how he tried to express the sadness of his people through the poetry. So I would like to meet him.
Yeah, you answered that like no problem.
Yeah,
That's
I
great.
knew.
Everyone gets so nervous about those questions, but they always have something ready. So
Yeah.
Susanna, I want to thank you for allowing me to interview you. I hope that the young writers listening found this beneficial. If you want to follow us, or if you want to listen to more episodes of this podcast, you can find them at youngeagerwriters.org. Thank you for listening.